Welcome to the VandySports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Billy Derrick and Luke Wyatt. We'll talk Vanderbilt football. The Commodores had a scrimmage yesterday. That was Sunday. We're doing this Monday morning. We'll talk about that and some practice stuff from last week. But first, we're welcoming a new sponsor to the show. And by the way, we could use more. We still don't have a sponsor for football season, if you can believe that or not. Biggest piece of real estate. We don't have a sponsor for that. But anyway, if you're interested, let me know. Email chrislee70@gmail.com. Anyway, our new sponsor, it's John Levine and the Maynard Nexon Government Contacts Group. I cannot read my own stuff here. Maynard Nexon advises government contractors on all aspects of their needs with a proud focus of matching legal solutions to business needs. We thank them for their sponsorship of our show for the coming year. Very excited to have them on. And again, that helps us pay the bills around here. All right. The Commodores are going to start paying some bills soon, including some on the stadium, I'm sure, which was a little bit of a hot mess yesterday. But I guess let's start there, guys. That's been a hot topic lately. We were in the stadium where Billy and I yesterday for the scrimmage, Billy's first trip to the press box, which was in good shape, looking as good as I've seen it look since I've covered Vanderbilt. But boy, the stadium is a little bit of a hot mess right now. There has been confidence from day one that they will have things ready for opening day, even if that means a suspended scoreboard and all kinds of bells and whistles that aren't standard procedure over there, I guess is a good way to say it. But I'm looking forward to this in 2 years from now. But in the meantime, we went through a little bit of a maze to get on the field into the press box yesterday. We're going to get a tour of things. I think, was it Tuesday, where they're going to show us a little bit more about stuff, Billy, and where fans come in and out. And I look forward to that. We'll be passing that along. But it was an interesting atmosphere in which to watch a scrimmage yesterday.
It really was. And, Robbie Weinstein and I were walking onto the field together before across the field, over to the press box side. And I told you, Chris, it was kind of eerie and it was just so different than what, Vanderbilt fans are used to seeing. I look over to the other end zone and, it felt like a different venue walking across that field. But, I throughout the game, I got used to it. I'm sure the players did too. And it was good for them to get on the field and, get used to that setting because Clark said it. It's going to feel different than it has been. The wind is going to blow differently. And I'm sure there will be some upset kickers and maybe even some punters after a few games this year at FirstBank Stadium. But no, it was good to get out there and kind of get our bearings. And then, like you said, Chris, Tuesday, the media will get a little tour of everything. So that'll be good too.
Luke, you've been in there, I'm sure. What do you make of the shape everything is in right now?
Well, the things I'm curious about, first of all, do we know a number on capacity yet?
Billy, I'm thinking maybe 25,000 tops.
That's what I was thinking. There's nothing official yet. We're told that there will be an official announcement soon, but yeah, nothing official yet.
Okay. And the second thing I noticed, I was over there the other day, not for practice, but to visit someone at the rec center, and just got curious and walked down and got as close as I could without getting into the construction site. And on game day, it looks like there's only going to be 2 entrances. I'm thinking down by what I call the student gate down by Memorial, and then the main entrance up by Natchez. But I'm not sure how that will work. I'm thinking you better get there 30 to 45 minutes earlier than you used to if you're a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
that's
from the media standpoint.
Recommended.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to speak over you there. I think I know they want us there before the gates open as media, just to make sure we get in okay. And I'm telling you, I'm planning on doing that. Now I may be watching a lot of other games on my iPhone once I'm there, waiting it out. But it's going to be something you need to plan around. Now, the good news, Billy, they had the bones of a lot of the basketball facility up. You could see the decks, you could see all the steel girders, you kind of see where the floors are probably going to be, and that part was kind of cool yesterday.
It was, yeah. They've made some progress over there. I think the next step is seeing some progress on the football side of things, and obviously maybe they have put that off because of how tight it got to the season. But yeah, I mean, they've made some progress over there. This more than just one steel beam up. I know we celebrated when one steel beam was up, but there's obviously more than just one now. And You can see the sort of indentations for, if that's even a word, of the seats, that you can sort of start to see it come together. I think that'll be exciting for fans to see as well.
Well,
all right, let's talk. Go ahead, Luke. I'm sorry.
One other quick thing, I'm speaking again from the fans' perspective. I think they're still going to have a way for a new Star Walk. So if the fan, I've had a lot of people ask me, will there still be a Star Walk? Well, obviously we have to get to the stadium somehow. It could be like a few high schools do, where they somehow come through the stands. I don't know insurance-wise how that works, but that would be kind of cool if they did, I think.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, let's talk football. I had to miss a couple of practices last week just due to family conflicts. Luke, I don't know how much you got to see. Billy, I think you were there for most of it. Luke, I'll start with you. What has stood out is we're now, three complete weeks into camp, maybe anything that popped last week that we haven't discussed. I'll give you the floor first here.
Yeah, this is more Billy's seen more actual practice time than I have, but I've seen a lot of film. I actually have a connection to that. But at any rate, what strikes me, we're less than 2 weeks out, and I feel probably more confident than I did when camp began. Again, it's the same worries we've all kind of spoken to. The tight end position is still a bit of a worry, although I think we're going to have more wides in the game anyway, more wideouts. I don't think the use of the tight end as far as the passing game goes will be near as much as it was last year. And then, of course, the other question is, I feel good about what the first two running backs are going to be, but that third guy, it's anybody's guess right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Luke. And Clark said that after the scrimmage. He said, right now we like Cheeks and we like Gillespie, but we're waiting on a third guy to step up. And I was a little surprised he was that direct with that running back spot. They've got three freshmen battling it out right now: Alexander, Newberry, and Benson. Newberry looked really good, I thought, in the scrimmage, and he showed some home run capability, and he's shown that throughout fall camp. He's a guy that I think might surprise some Vandy fans this year. If I had to make a hot take prediction, I would say he takes that spot. But again, we'll see. They like the depth there, and they're gonna have a guy step up there. But in terms of the other parts of that scrimmage, Chris, I thought the cornerback play was a little bit better, and Clark said that. He said last week was a big week for them. They put on some boxing gloves, which is an interesting strategy 2 weeks before camp to avoid holding penalties and just practice a little bit differently. I thought that was interesting, and he said it frustrates them, but they're learning from it, and they got better. I mean, he said it was cleaner in the second scrimmage of fall camp. Obviously, Swan, I think he was 7 for 10 with 128 yards and a touchdown. Ken Seals, I thought, played well as well. But the receivers, Shepard, Skinner, we know what they can do. We saw them a little bit in the scrimmage. But London Humphreys was the freshman that stepped up in this scrimmage, Chris. And I know you obviously got to see him in that scrimmage and in the first scrimmage as well. But the second scrimmage, he was even better. I think he had a long 70-yard touchdown in that first scrimmage. But man, this second scrimmage, he really showed his worth, I thought. And, we saw in the first scrimmage, London, Junior Sherrill did the same sort of thing. So, they like the young depth there, but also the overall depth at that wide receiver spot. And Humphreys was my MVP if I had to pick one for the scrimmage, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that you guys both touched on things that I think are worthy topics right now. The going four wides, to me, if you play to the strength of your personnel. Now, look, I don't know how ready these guys are, if they know the full route tree yet. I mean, there's always stuff. You guys see guys flash in scrimmages, and you're like, oh, wow, this guy needs to be on the field. Well, we don't know how much all that other stuff that they know or don't know. But if I'm just going on talent, I would rather have four wides on the field, I think, at this point than an extra tight end or even a tight end period. Justin Ball's had a decent camp. I don't mean to shortchange him, but it's clear to me that the receiver room is way stronger than the tight end room. And I think we thought that going into camp, but I think the emergence of Junior Sherrill and London Humphreys, who I could argue have been their best two freshmen in camp. And I think that would be my two picks right now. There'd be a couple other guys that I would get into too. But I think those are my best two true freshmen to camp. I think they're going to see the field because they have to see the field. They're too good not to. Luke, I wanted to circle back to something you said about running backs. You said you felt good about two guys because I think right now their top two guys are Patrick Smith and Chase Gillespie. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, but I don't think
Okay.
there's a question about that.
Okay.
Barry's the home run guy, but Cedric Alexander's been there longer, so it gives him a bit of it. Probably in the first game, I would think would be the first back of the freshmen to see the field. Will be my guess. Just because he's been there more reps. Yeah,
in my mind, I think their two most talented backs, and maybe in this order, are Newberry and Alexander. Again, when you're a running back and you're a true freshman, you got to pick up on a lot of stuff. You know, you miss a pass pro and you get your quarterback killed, and that's something that keeps freshmen off the field. But I think in terms of talent, Billy, and I think you agree, I think that's their two most talented running backs.
Yes, I like Newberry right when he committed. He was a Colorado commit, and I want to say before Deion Sanders was even able to really get to him or talk to him, Vanderbilt sort of plucked him away from Colorado, and he was one of their better commits. And so, and Clark Lee said that he's reached up to 20 miles per hour in pads. So he might be, in terms of ceiling potential, whatever you want to say, the best back on the team. But in terms of experience and what they need at that position for this offense, obviously you're not going to start him right away. You like Patrick Smith, Chase Gillespie, but Newberry is a guy. I mean, we've seen freshman running back come up on the scene in the SEC before. I think about Quinshon Judkins last year, Chris. I'm not saying Newberry is a Quinshon Judkins, but I think down the stretch of this season, you could see some bright spots for Newberry, but I think they like Benson too. The future is bright at that running back position.
I haven't seen. Go ahead, Luke.
I'm sorry. One thing I want to interject, and Billy, this was at the end of your interview with Clark that I noticed, and I'm sure you picked up on it too, Chris. He mentioned that Newberry has done a great job of picking up, doing his job blocking. Now that's probably as important as anything of those freshmen. So that I agree. I think as time goes on, Newberry will be the guy. I just think Alexander, since he's been there and had more reps, will be the first one to see the field.
Right.
Let's shift the discussion to the other side of the field for a minute, because cornerback is a position we have watched all camp, and I'll turn this to you, Billy, first, and I'll let Luke respond with his opinions. But I think we were a little surprised when we went to the scrimmage and their starting corners were B.J. Anderson. That one wasn't so much a surprise, but Tyson Russell, the other one. I think you and I are both pretty adamant that Martell Height's the most talented corner on their roster. I don't even think it's a debate. And Trudell Berry might be second, but again, there are mistakes and things that come with youth. I don't know if that was just that's the direction we're going right now. If that's let's give our older guys kind of a last chance to win the job or what that was. But I think you and I were both probably expecting Martell Height to be on the field yesterday to start. He was not. That's probably the biggest thing I'm watching on defense. There's some other storylines of interest too. They're really everywhere at this point with the injuries, but that was the thing that I think surprised both of us yesterday.
Yeah. And maybe it means Russell and Anderson are going to start game one against Hawaii. Maybe it doesn't, maybe they just want to try it out, but my gut agrees with Luke at what he said last episode, that Berry and Anderson will most likely start because they have earned that right to go out there in the first game of the season. But Martell Height has shown his worth. So he is more than capable of being plugged in there at a moment's notice and performing well. Chris, on the topic of the corners, I thought Russell and Berry looked a lot better this week. I don't know about you. I just thought there weren't as many hand penalties that late, on a deep ball. They weren't just burnt or toasted like they were in the first scrimmage. Now, they had some other guys back healthy on that defense that helped, I think. But as a whole, I thought they were a little bit better. And even, a guy like a Russell, who we thought is, maybe obviously not the best option at corner, but I mean, he has been there. And he's done that. And of course, Anderson, I thought, he's been fairly consistent in fall camp. So yeah, Martell Height, Chris, is obviously the best corner on the team, but that doesn't mean he'll start game one.
Luke, what are you seeing from the corner competition?
Well, as Billy said the last episode, I still think the way Clark manages his football team, it will be the guys that have been there and done that, and that's Russell and Anderson. I do think Barry and Hyde are going to play a ton, and how early that'll happen, I don't know. The thing you don't know about those two, they haven't been under the big lights. Now, I love the fact that our schedule, we started home in front of whatever it's going to be, 25,000 of just Vanderbilt fans pretty much for Hawaii and Alabama A&M. I love that. So many years we've started on a Thursday night at South Carolina or something like that. That's a huge advantage for Clark and his staff. And I think that's what's going to play into – it's almost like you're crawling, you're walking, you're running. And our schedule sets up perfectly for that. I would rather play Vegas before Wake, flip those two. But besides that, I love the way our schedule's going. I know I'm a little off track there, but I think that will be why he will give these guys one more opportunity to see what they can do.
All right, gentlemen, I'll start with you, Luke. I'm kind of intrigued by the options on the front seven on defense right now. I think both the Pattersons have had great camps at linebacker. In my opinion, that's their best two linebackers right now, but Ethan Barr's been hurt for 2 weeks. I think Clark Lee referred to him as a starter the other day. You've seen Bryce Cowan getting, I guess, starting run at the, the anchor position. I get the anchor and the star mixed up all the time. The one that's the DB linebacker hybrid. Cowan's been getting reps there, but that's CJ Taylor's spot. He hasn't, I don't know that he's taken a scrimmage rep all camp. They think he'll be there for the opener last I checked. So that's been intriguing to watch, just the battles there. Brian Longwell, a guy that's a true freshman that's really come up lately and made a lot of plays. I think on the front end, I think you kind of know that Nate Clifton's going to start at one spot. I think Devin Lee will start at another spot in the middle. Agu had that in locked down until the injury. Now they're rotating a lot of bodies there. And then DeCosmo has had that other side locked down, but they've got some guys behind them. Luke, what do you make of the state of their front seven right now? And, oh, by the way, Christian James, we've not mentioned. That's a kid that they're going to get back at some point. Although I'm guessing at this point, if we've not seen him, it's not going to be the opener.
Yeah, I think you take the opener, you take Agu and James out of the equation, and then look at it. And I think you're going to see them rolling a lot of guys in on the front line. I think you're going to see, it doesn't really matter who starts. I think you're going to see a lot of guys get snaps so they can see what they've got in game situation. I 100% agree on the linebackers. Something about the Longwell kid, he just seems like an old soul as a freshman to me.
Yep.
The way he carries himself, I heard him speak on the podcast or Billy's when he's talking to the kids the other day, and just hearing from other people over there. I really like his future at Vanderbilt. Now, not to say he's going to come in and not blow everybody's doors off this year, but man, Ethan Crisp, the kid from Mount Juliet, I haven't seen anything from him, but I watched him in high school a couple of times. He's going to, at some point, it'll click with him. I feel really good about the front seven. I think it's the best front seven we've had in a long, long time. And rolling guys in, I don't think it's going to matter up front who's quote a starter, because they're all going to play a ton of minutes.
Yeah, I think the coaches would agree with you, Luke, and they're really excited about this front seven. You mentioned Longwell, Chris. He is very mature as a freshman, and he wasn't extremely highly recruited. I made sure to ask him about that after the scrimmage, and he had the best answer I've ever seen from a freshman. He said, "I'm not worried about proving people wrong. I know what I'm capable of. I'm going to go out there and be myself." And that's a common theme with a lot of these freshmen. London Humphreys, very mature as well. Junior Sherrill. I mean, they don't not only recruit athletes and talent and length and all those different attributes. They're recruiting to the school and to the person. So the holistic approach, we always hear about that, and the philosophical approach from Clark Lee. It's true. And I've noticed that with a lot of these freshmen. Also on the front seven, Bradley Mann, Chris, has stood out to me as of late. He had a really impressive tackle for loss where he just ate up, I think it was Cedric Alexander. It was one of the running backs. And, of course, Langston Patterson and Kane Patterson continue to impress. Ted Gregor had a sack. So he's a guy that I think they've got some work to do with him physically, with his body. So I don't know how much he'll play this year, but he's a guy that I think they like and project well for him. And then other than that, we know what you're going to get from a Davion Davis, who, of course, hasn't been playing a whole lot. But Christian James and Darren Agu being out right now, that has sort of opened the door for a Linus Zunk. And, Miles Capers getting back healthy, to Cosmo, and even younger guys like Demarion Thomas. And I already mentioned Bradley Mann. So, Luke, I 100% agree with you. They're going to be able to really rotate more than they've ever been able to, especially with the past couple of years. They just haven't been able to do that. And go ahead. I was just going to say by the late third quarter, fourth quarter, they've got the same guys out there and they're gassed. So they're going to be able to rotate guys and they'll have fresh legs in the fourth quarter. And I think that's something that's really important for this team this season.
No, you stole my thought there. That's what I meant. In the fourth quarter, how many times have we seen the old adage, they play you good for a half or they play you good for three quarters and they run out of gas? I can remember my days at Vanderbilt, players on the sideline, you just look at them and they have that deer in the headlight look in the fourth quarter because they've gone up, they've looked at two or three other guys throughout the game and they've been playing every snap at their position. Even though they were as good as that first guy, but then fourth quarter, they got nothing left. So that's the exciting thing for me. It's the best depth we've had in a long time. It really is.
Yeah, and one guy I forgot to mention, Issa Wataha. I think he's going to take that other end spot. My guess is that's who's going to start there. Agu will eventually, when he gets well, I'm guessing he's going to miss the first couple of games. Maybe be back for Wake Forest is just my guess.
Well, and think about that, Chris. We forgot about Issa Wataha. That's how much depth is on this defensive line. That's right. That's a good thing that we forgot about.
Demarion Thomas.
And that was the next one I was going to go to. That Luke Ted Gregory has really shown up. I mean, first week or two, I didn't really notice him being out there. It seems like he's made a lot of plays. Now, look, some of that is it's still the fall camp portion, and so most people are getting reps, and they're not. So that you may see some guys getting a lot of reps right now that you don't see getting rep in the season, or maybe the week leading up to Hawaii practice, which at that point, fall camp, which is a misnomer because it's hotter than anything out there every day, is going to end. But I digress. Yeah, I think they've got a lot of bodies there. That end spot has just been a turnstile lately, I think, as they're looking to mix and match and see what their options are. I don't think that's because they don't feel good about their options. I think they're still in the experimentation stage where a lot of these guys move inside and outside, but that's my guess as to how they're going to settle. But I want to throw something else at you guys. And I'm going to throw this one to Luke, and then I'll do that. Billy, I'll give you time to get some ad reads together and get our mailbag ready. I've got another radio spot in about 20 minutes, so we're going to have to pace ourselves here. But I'll let you get prepared for the mailbag. We'll ask Luke something. Luke, I remember when Clark took over 2 years ago, and I would do radio things, and people would just ask me, like, guys, their roster's in bad shape. I look around. I don't know who on this roster is going to contribute, like could plug in at Kentucky or Ole Miss or, much less Alabama or Georgia or somebody and help another team. I just struggled to name guys at that point. Ironically, probably the first one I would have named was Ken Seals. And he didn't play a snap a year ago, although I think he'll play some this year. I look around now, and the talent assemblage and development just looks much different. I mean, they got a lot of kids that would play other places. Will Shepard, C.J. Taylor. I think A.J. Swan could probably play for some teams in this league. And a lot of guys that might not necessarily start, but I think would depth pieces in the secondary, on the front seven, certainly at linebacker. As bad as it's been for Vanderbilt over the last 60 years in football, something happened in April that hadn't happened in, I think, about 30 years. That was the second year in a row they didn't have anybody taken in the draft. That tells you a lot about how bad the talent had dropped. And I think probably the overriding storyline to me, Luke, has just been how much better they have gotten. I don't know if they're going to have a winning season, get to a bowl game. You're probably a little more confident about that than I am. I wouldn't rule it out for sure. But there's a big, big, big difference between what we're watching now and what we were watching this time 2 years ago.
Well, Chris, there's no question that, and like last show, I mentioned that Clark and Barton, those two for sure, and everybody else over there has done yeoman's work. I mean, everything they do is intentional. And I'll compare them a little bit to Jared Nardo's staff when he was at Vanderbilt. Rick George was one of the recruiting guys then, and he probably is the closest thing that we've had as far as just breaking down talent, understanding talent since Barton Simmons. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we are where we are after year 3. Now, again, and you have to always mention this, Vanderbilt's, it's always going to be the depth piece that's got to stay healthy. We're talking about what now, 6, 7 guys still haven't practiced much at all. Well, in the past, if those 6 or 7 had been off the field, we'd be like, oh gosh, here we go. We're done. We can't even beat Hawaii without these 6 or 7 guys. Well, that's not the case anymore. We're just thinking, okay, we got to get them ready in a month when conference play starts. That hasn't been the case at Vanderbilt. So, I mean, I'm over the moon with it. I feel like we're ahead of schedule. I know Clark would kill me for saying that. But I think they're ahead of schedule. And they're even ahead of schedule a little further than I thought they would be at this point.
Billy, have we got the mailbag ready?
Yes, we do. We've got the mailbag ready, and it is brought to you by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call at 615-846-6200 to see what your rights are and if they can help. All right, really good first question here from VU Superior. How did Davion Walker play, and does it seem like he can contribute this season? And I hope that person that is asking that question knows he's playing corner now. And Chris, I've been trying to keep an eye on him. I'm not going to say he's lit the world on fire, but he's done better than I thought he would have performed. We've seen him for a few practices and one scrimmage. I think Will Shepherd did have a catch over him in the scrimmage. He's still trying to get his bearings straight, switching positions. And obviously the coaching staff is helping him a lot with that. But Luke, I'm not sure if you've seen anything from him, but he is playing corner, and that'll be an interesting transition.
Well, athleticism comes to mind first. He's definitely not one of the top 4 guys out there, but he's the kind of kid that if he develops and something clicks, he can help you. But I think he's more next year, in my opinion.
Well, Billy had a pick in practice yesterday.
Yeah,
I was sitting next to you, and I was kind of waiting for a flag to be thrown. I thought he got a little handsy, but I was watching it from the press box, and there were officials there. It wasn't called. He was right there with, I don't remember if he was on McGowan or who he was on, but you don't see a guy make a pick usually in a scrimmage in his first week at that position, but maybe that's a good omen.
And Luke's right. You talk about athleticism with him. He's got that part of the position, right? I think the technique is exactly what he's got to figure out. Second part of VU Superior's question: did Brian Longwell come out of nowhere and now looks like he can play? Luke, you sort of hinted at that. How much do you think Longwell actually gets in this season?
Well, I think if we stay healthy, he won't play much. I mean, he may play special teams and all that, but I just feel like he's another kid I look at for 24. I just think that, man, it's how you just look at somebody in the gut feeling you get about a kid. He's one of those that I just feel like he's going to have a storied career at Vanderbilt. Not that he's going to be Jamie Duncan or somebody like that, but just solid, like a Matt Stewart, like a Nate Morrow, those type of guys. I think he's going to be in that category.
I would answer the question this way. Saying he came out of nowhere, that's a little strong. I would put it this way, but most freshmen come out of nowhere if they're going to contribute in week 2 or 3. Like a lot of freshmen show up in the first week, they are very anonymous just because they're getting used to being out. Like Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think London Humphreys did much his first week.
No.
The kids that weren't there in the spring, that's common. I mean, Quincy Skinner is one of the few guys I can think of that I've seen recently that popped like right away. And then it went the opposite way for him. He was really good the first week of camp in 2021, and then came the drops and, maybe not learning the finer points of the game or whatever came with it. I don't think Skinner, he either caught 0 or 1 balls his freshman year. So usually it happens the way that it's happened with Longwell and Humphreys, that first week they're just kind of feeling it out and playing against guys that are better for them than them for the first time. And then maybe week 2 or 3, it clicks. That's kind of the way it's gone with Humphreys and with Longwell and really Sherrill too. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you look at it, Chris, and, Longwell's a talented guy, but that linebacker spot is one of the more, depth-filled positions on the team. I mean, they're loaded right now at that position. So, Longwell will play in the future. Not sure exactly how much this season. All right, let's go to Vandy Mick 7. What can we expect for the opening game at FirstBank Stadium? And I'm guessing he's referring to logistics and getting in and out of the stadium. How smooth will it be? Things like that. And Chris, I guess we'll start with you on that one.
Get there plenty early, Mick.
Yeah, it's night kickoff. What is it? It's 6:30, Chris. So you got plenty of time to get there early enough.
Yeah, I would be parked no later than 4:30 just to have a panic-free experience.
And another note, I was told about a shuttle service potentially. Chris, I'm not sure about the details there, but there will be details released specifically Tuesday. So, and I'm sure you'll be all over those. Chris, so we'll learn more about that. Let's see here. NBA door. Should we be more concerned about the corners or the tight ends at this point? Good question. Luke, you want to start?
Well, I would say tight ends just from the standpoint of there's the depth. You had a couple of kids last year that didn't put up great numbers, but they were very dependable, good blockers. And Schoenwald and help me with the other one.
Bresnahan.
Yeah, Bresnahan. We don't have that right now. I do think Justin Boss had a good camp, in my opinion. But the other guys are just unknown. So I would say tight end.
Chris?
I'm going to go opposite. And this is why. I think you can mitigate tight end depth with the way that you're seeing Sherrill and Humphreys play. I mean, Quincy Skinner's had two Sundays ago, he's probably the MVP of that scrimmage. Will Shepard has just been unstoppable. Marion Carter's made some plays in there. I mean, Richie Hoskins, every practice we look at you other and go, this guy's making plays. He's a walk-on, but he's making plays. Maybe that's a little bit of an indictment of the corner room, but he's made a one-hand catch the other day over the middle. I feel like they can mitigate the tight end spot. You can't really disguise issues at corner. Not like you're going to put 6 linebackers out there and have them cover guys. To me, I'm more concerned about corner at this point. Maybe Height comes along and is, locking it down by year end. I don't think a true freshman usually does that. Maybe it's Barry and Height at the end of the year, and we're feeling pretty good about things headed into next year, which by the way, as an aside, I'm feeling pretty good about 2024 in terms of the talent. The schedule might kill that. But yeah, I just don't think you can, when you've got some issues at corner, which I think they could have, I don't think you can disguise that very easily.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about pass rush maybe helping, the secondary a little bit, but I think to an extent, right, that there's only so much. I think now it can help, but your corners are your corners, and to a point, most teams are just going to put the receivers on an island and say, hey, go beat this guy. Right. So, and that's hard to stop. If you double team one guy, you got another guy wide open. So, we saw that a couple times last season. I'll go corner too. But again, the tight end position, I think they will feel that hole at times this year, right? Not saying they're totally fine there, but they'll also feel that hole as well. All right. 5-Star Door asks, talk to me about the running backs. Is there any chance we have a competent running game this year? If the opponent can drop 7 every down because we aren't a threat to run the ball against 4-down linemen, we are in trouble.
Luke, I'll let you start.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. It's a Captain Obvious thing. If we can't run the ball, they can drop 7. So I don't. Honestly, I don't worry about the running game. I really don't. I think the offensive line is so good, and I think they're very good. I think they're middle of the pack in the SEC. I think they're somewhere between the 7th and the 10th best offensive line in this league. Again, I always have to say, unless someone gets hurt. And I feel like they'll be able to – the backs are competent enough. If they get a crack, they'll be able to get the 3 to 4 yards we need each time. And where our passing game is going to be so much improved that we can throw it to them out of the backfield. I think Patrick Smith does a good job catching the football. And that's going to be huge. That just adds another receiver. So I'm not that concerned.
Yeah, and Chris, Patrick Smith has looked a little bit better, I think, at least from my eyes, the last week or so, catching ball in the backfield and looking a little bit more explosive.
Before I give you my answer, I'm going to remind you that our podcast is brought to you by the Wash House. Are you dreading laundry day? If stealing time to do the things you truly enjoy is an issue, let the laundry professionals at the Wash House take care of that for you. With 2 convenient locations in the greater Nashville area, just drop off your dirty laundry and our professional attendants can give you back the one thing you can never get enough of, your time. With 24 hours, you can pick up your nicely folded, clean, and fresh laundry ready to be put away. Check us out at washhouse.com and stop in today and get your time back. Okay. I don't think their running back room is catastrophic. I want to be clear. I'm still not crazy about it. I think that their best 2 options aren't 1 and 2 on the depth chart right now in terms of talent. Can you get 4.1, 4.2 yards a carry? Yeah, if you can do that, I think you'll be okay because I think the passing game has got a chance to be really good. So I think it just needs to be good enough. I don't see it is any more than that. I don't see it being a strength of this team. I think that when they play the Georgias of the world, the teams that are just dominant up front, you might be lucky to see them post 50 yards rushing against Hawaii, Wake Forest, UNLV, teams like that. I think they'll be competent. We'll wait and see. Smith has gotten better, as you said. I think Gillespie's been in the system now for a couple of years. And again, I like a couple of their younger options, but they've still got a lot to prove to me at this point.
And another good thing, there's depth there, right? If Gillespie doesn't hold up his end of the bargain, all of a sudden you've got a freshman right there behind you, nipping at your heels, ready to take your spot. So, there's really no room to relax for any of these starters at most positions. I mean, you could say that about a lot of positions on this team this year. You can't really relax if you're a starter because there are young guys right behind them. All right, Let's get to Midges VU. I'm really reading and feeling a perhaps middle of the pack in the SEC offensive line, or at least in the top 8 this year with depth. Luke, you just referred to that. And we all know if you're in this range in the SEC, you're talking about a top 30-ish offensive line in all of college football. Do y'all agree or disagree with this assessment and opinion, and why? Good observation there.
I'll let Luke hit that one.
Yeah, like I just said, that's one of my favorite parts of this football team and one of my favorite position coaches. I think when you have it both, Vanderbilt in the past has had good offensive linemen, but maybe didn't have any depth. This team's got 9 guys that you can go to war with. The thing that strikes me about it, and Billy, you and Chris maybe speak to this a little more than I could, seems like to me it's the same guys. They're out, those 5. And, boy, they work as a unit. And that's the whole thing. If you work as a unit in harmony as an offensive line, you've got something. And I think they've got something.
Billy, I've got about 5 minutes before I've got a radio spot. So let's pick our best ones. Before you do that, a reminder, our podcast also sponsored by the Murfreesboro Pure Milk Company, which is a family-owned third-generation milk and ice cream distribution company located in Murfreesboro. A partnership began over 50 years ago with Purity Dairy in Nashville to provide locally produced Purity milk and ice cream products to consumers in Middle Tennessee. The collaboration has continued to expand, now includes Southern Kentucky, Northern Alabama, and the Chattanooga and North Georgia area. As our service area increased, so did our product portfolio. Today, we supply grocery stores, convenience stores, schools, and more with Purity products, and have also added Mayfield ice cream and Nestle and Haagen-Dazs ice cream. For more information, visit the website at mpmci.com. Our fridge has been stocked with Purity ice cream late this summer. It has been a miracle. I've not gotten heavier than I have. Thank you to the gym down the street. We'll push for a sponsorship there too. But yes, it's a phenomenal product, and I've really enjoyed that sponsorship. Billy, let's get a couple and get me out here so I'm not late for what I've got to do next.
No, we don't want that. And Chris, we also had ice cream after practice one
We
day.
did.
I think it was a couple weeks ago. So who would have thought that? But let's keep rolling on. We got a couple quick ones here. Number one from Omador. Which position group has looked better, offensive line or defensive line?
I don't know that I have an answer, Luke.
I think they both look great. I mean, that's the thing. And you know, when you're practicing, you want it to be 50-50. And I think they both had their highlights. But the consistency with the offensive line, I'll give them the slight edge.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I really like what I've seen from the defensive line. The offensive line has been so consistent, though, that – but then again, you look at the running. I don't think the run blocking has been as good as I might have expected. So I'll go D-line. I'll go D-line. I really like the depth there, and I think they've looked really good.
I'll tie break based on this, okay? If you've picked the defensive line, Luke's on the fence and I was on the fence, who's been healthier? Hands down, it's been the offensive line.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I say that Jake Ketchuk has been out all camp. I guess we kind of built that in, that there's been no Christian James. There's been no Darren Agu. So I would say if it's close, I would give a slight edge to the D-line just because of a couple of key guys are missing. So anyway.
All right, real quick, Section M19, are we wearing all black versus Hawaii? I don't think any of us can answer that, but they did release a new uniform combination with the gold helmets with the white V. They got a revised black jersey and gold pants that look a little bit more like this VandySports logo on the screen here. So it looks like a different shade of gold. Luke, I don't know if you've gotten to look at them, but what do you think? I
have, and as an old-time equipment manager, I think the first game he'll go tradition, which is gold helmet, black jersey, gold pants.
Okay, there it is. Chris, any thoughts there?
Was that they teased something on the graphic yesterday? Are you saying they put out something this morning that's a little different than that?
So yeah, later last night they actually put out the entire uniform combo that they're using for media day today. But they haven't released the combo versus Hawaii. I'm sure they will game week though. But
okay, I saw something on the graphic last night. I couldn't tell much different, but I did like the gold helmet, black top, gold pants combo that was out there. I don't know if that was part of it, but yeah.
And there's no shoulder cap. Last year, or at least on this first black jersey, last year they had the stripes right on the gold stripes on the black jersey. No longer, at least on this combo they released last night. So I'm sure we'll continue to keep track of that, Chris. But that's all I got.
No excessive anchors and chains?
No, there were no anchors or chains seen on the combo last night.
Yeah, those uniforms, the deep water uniforms,
they were a lot.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the people that intended to be dragged to deep water were the ones that got dragged into deep water many Saturdays. But in any case, boy,
we digress.
Yeah, glad we're not covering that.
A low blow.
But anyway. You know, and I like Derek Mason. I saw him at media days. I like him as a person, but my goodness, I was just thinking, I think this morning is like, I'm so glad we're not back in that 2019, 2020
Yeah, I actually put a picture out on Twitter last night. 2 pictures. One of them was the 2019 release of the gray, basically all gray shoulder cap. And when have you ever seen gray in a Vanderbilt football uniform? This year, you just saw released. Really, I think the simplest and most classic look you've seen in a while, since James Franklin, which I think some fans like, and they might think is a little symbolic. So, the uniforms are changing. So is the program.
All right, gentlemen, I've got to get out of here to do a radio thing in a couple of minutes. Thank you both for joining me. I don't know if we'll do, I think, Billy, you and Joey have talked about doing a show this week, so I may let you guys have at it and stay out of it. We'll see. Maybe I'll join you. But Luke, I think we'll have you join us. Goodness, next week will be game week, won't it?
Got to do a game weeker.
Yeah,
Crazy.
we'll figure out the date on that. Billy, you'll be doing your pregame show that I'll turn you loose on, and then we'll have something else for you. But in any case, we may or may not have another episode this week. Given the way that you and Joey are always pestering me about doing a podcast, I have a feeling we'll come up with something. And then
Joey,
probably back to 3 next week.
Joey's got some ideas, so I feel bad if I don't listen to him.
Yeah, all right. For me, it's just finding the time. But in any case, gentlemen, thanks for joining me. This has been the VandySports Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Luke and Billy. I'm Chris Lee, the host. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.